everybody. With the month of July coming to an end, I decided that I would go ahead and talk about my reads this month. And I do want to say I have two 5-star reads and one book I did not finish, but I got a decent way through it, so I didn't completely give up on it. But we'll get into all of that. And I do want to say, minus the book that I DNF'd, I probably read a lot more this month than I will for the rest of the year, which not a big deal, but it's fine. I just had a lot of free time this month and I was able to read. And also thank you to my Kindle, because that thing, without it, I probably would not have read this much, honestly. But anyways, we'll go ahead and go in chronological order of the books that I read. My first book was Beach Read by Emily Henry. And so this one, I want to say I wasn't too impressed with. I was wanting to go give Emily Henry a chance, just because I've heard great things about her on TikTok and, BookTube, and her books are really popular and she's doing really good right now. So I was like, okay, let me give her books a go, because they sound up my alley and people were saying to read it in publishing order. So I was like, okay, I'll just give it a go. I'll go ahead and give you guys a little synopsis of what I remember. I will say I did read this at the beginning of the month and I read it within 3 days, so I don't really remember too much about it. So from what I remember, the two main characters, they went to college together and they were enemies, or so the female main character thinks anyways, and then they end up living across from each other in this small little town. I can't remember where it is. I don't really think that's relevant. But anyways, she moves into her deceased father's house that he shared with his mistress that she did not know about. And it basically goes from there. They're both authors and they write different genres, completely different genres. I don't remember the genre that he writes, but I think it's historical fiction, maybe. I don't know. I just know it's more cynical and straightforward reading, if that makes any sense. They have this little bet who can write the other's genre and publish it and actually sell it. And I can't remember who wins the bet, because I'm gonna be so honest with you, I skimmed the last couple of pages just because I gave this book 3 stars. So I did obviously enjoy it and I would recommend it to people who like this kind of book. It was a lot of internal monologue, which I was not prepared for. I like banter and I like dialogue. And a lot of this book was self-reflection, and I just didn't really relate to it because she was just being very angsty about her father and his affair that she didn't know about. And she spent a lot of time thinking about that and how she doesn't like the male main character. I forgot his name. How she doesn't like him. And I don't know, the side characters just really weren't that interesting. The male main character was also kind of two-dimensional to me. Obviously, this is my opinion. If you don't agree, that's completely fine. Maybe this was a 5-star read for you. It wasn't for me. That's pretty much all I really remember. It's not a bad book, but I just probably wouldn't read it again, and I probably wouldn't mention it. If somebody were to ask me if they could read it, I'm gonna be like, let me tell you what I didn't like about it, and then if those are things that you like, then read it. The second book I read is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This is another book I went into completely blind. All I knew was that it was super popular on TikTok. This one I had only heard positive things about. Average rating is 4.23, so that's not too bad. That's actually pretty high. And I gave it a 3-star. I went into this with high expectations just because I saw so many people raving about it and saying it was so good and they're so excited for her next book. I didn't even know that she was coming out with a book. I think it literally just came out a couple weeks ago. But basically, once again, I know the main girl's name is, her nickname is Lemon, but I don't remember what her name is. So we're just gonna say male main character and female. Okay, we'll go male lead and female lead because I don't remember either of their names. So basically, she comes into the inheritance of her aunt's apartment, and her aunt basically told her the apartment is special. And so what the apartment does is it can send you 7 years into the future or 7 years in the past based on what you need. So you can't on a whim decide to go somewhere and see someone. The apartment decides for you. So it's really out of your control. So basically, she goes back 7 years in time and she meets the male lead, and they basically start a relationship from there. And the aunt has 2 rules: don't fall in love, and then I don't remember what the other rule. I think the other rule is have fun or something, or always follow your heart, something like that. And basically, she does that. She falls in love with this guy in the past, and then I don't know if this is a spoiler. No, it's not a spoiler. They meet 7 years in the present, her present, and he remembers her, but she's currently like, I don't know. It was a little like weird because like he's already lived through it, but because she's currently going to the past right now, she's like learning what's going on as like it goes on, you know? Like in one of the time travels that whatever she has, she goes and she sleeps with the guy in the past, but when she comes back to the future, she has like a hickey and stuff. And he's like, the male lead is like, oh, where'd you get that hickey? Like, you must have had a good night. And she just kind of like looks at him and he's like, oh, you went to the past and like it's happening. So like she's learning as it goes and he's not saying anything, but then somehow it like all works out in the end. I don't understand. To be honest, I didn't really like it because I felt like the ending was a little unrealistic just because 7 years is a long time. I love like star-crossed lovers and like you're meant to be like destiny, like you guys are together no matter what. Every universe type deal. I love that. But it's just they had changed so much in 7 years. And I think she's like 35 or something in her present. And she goes back in 7 years and he's like 20 something, right? Just because that's how it works. And it's like she's falling in love with a completely like it just to me, I know I'm probably like thinking too hard into it, but to me, I just couldn't wrap my head around that part. So I gave it 3 stars. Atlas 6 by Olive Blake. And I had heard about this a little bit. It's kind of like a dark academia. And like I said, not like I said, but this is the book that I didn't finish. I think I got maybe like 30% into it and I just couldn't stand the characters and how nothing was happening, but yet there was so much information being thrown at you. The overall rating I got was 3.6, which is an average rating. I rated it 1 star just because that's the lowest you can give it. Books I give 1 star are books that I didn't finish. So I was really interested in the premise of it because you have 6 different people and they all are scouted to go to this academy, but only 5 of them are going to graduate. And they all have different like abilities. And to me, I didn't really understand the ability system. Like it just seemed like you either had an ability or you didn't. And there are different like types of abilities. So there's like physical abilities, which they can kind of like manipulate like the world around us. And there was this one girl who could like the plants like spoke to her and she could control them and they like had like this little thing going on. I don't really know. There was a girl who could read minds. There was a guy who could manipulate people's feelings and make them do things. And then there's another guy who could see through illusions. So this is me editing right now, and I want to say I really butchered why I stopped reading this. 9 times out of 10, okay, well, more recently, 7 times out of 10, I'll push through a book just to finish because, like I said, 7 out of 10 times, it's just a rough couple of chapters and it ends up being a really good book. I stopped reading because the chapters became lengthy, and I'm pretty sure the chapter that I finished on was 2 characters talking about how they could transport in time and all the actual physics and matter that goes into that. And I know I am a dialogue and banter girly, as I stated before in the video. Also, I apologize for saying like so much as I'm editing this video. I'm noticing that a lot, but that's off topic. Okay, so I stopped reading. There was barely any dialogue, and all the dialogue that was happening just did not seem relevant. The characters were really interesting, and I feel like they had a lot of room for development and growth, but it just wasn't giving because it was focusing so much on the science side of it all. So if you're into science, I feel that this is something up your alley because I'm sure the dialogue and banter as the characters do develop towards each other or apart from each other will get better, but I just have to say it was not for me. My next read, which is one that I've seen a couple people read recently. I don't know when it came out. Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater, and it is a series. This is the first book in the series, and it has an average rating of 4.09. I give it a 5 stars because for me, it ticked everything. It had Bridgerton vibes because it takes place during the same time Bridgerton does. I don't know what time period that is, but like the whole courting system, the gowns, the balls, love it. I love Bridgerton, so this was perfect because it had a fantasy aspect to it too. And since it is a romance as well, there's a romance subplot, so the romance doesn't take up the whole story, it's just also thrown in there. It's basically Theodora, her mom promised the fairy that she could have her firstborn daughter, and so the fairy comes to collect, and she's like, no. Well, her cousin Vanessa, I think her name is Vanessa, is like, no, stabs the fairy, and so he only gets half of her soul, which is why it's called Half a Soul. And so basically the whole thing is just her going to London because her cousin's getting courted, and she's trying to figure out what the Lord Sorcerer, I don't know how to say it, he's helping her figure out what's going on with her and how she can find the other half of her soul. They end up falling in love, and it is the cutest thing ever. And I don't want to say too much because you should really just read it. It's quick, 250 pages, it's perfect. Like, the magic system isn't complicated, the characters aren't complicated, like, it all just works. I loved it. Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I loved Just for the Summer by her, so I decided to give another one of her books a go. And this one fell really short for me. I gave it 2 stars and it has an average rating of 4.3, which is insane. That is a high average rating. I read this one recently, so I think I know. I skimmed through like the last couple chapters, not even gonna lie. But I think his name's Daniel. And I forgot the main girl's name. That's insane. I did not like the main girl because she kept talking down on Daniel, but she like somehow also still really liked him. So that to me didn't really make any sense because she'd be like, I'm embarrassed of him, but I can't stop thinking about him. Like, I want to be with him, but I don't want anybody to know him. We had a lot of internal conflict about the relationship, but it really wasn't, like, it didn't need to be internal conflict because she clearly liked him and he clearly liked her. She just didn't want people to know that she was dating him because he's younger, he has tattoos, she's a doctor, and he like lives in this little loft and runs an Airbnb in a small town. And that was my problem, was that she kept using like all those things and like talking down on him, and I just did not like that because that is just not like a good thing to go off in a relationship. And they literally sleep together after the first chapter, so it is not a slow burn. Like I said, I gave it 2 stars. The next book, which I actually just finished last night, and I was crying. Not like bawling my eyes out, but I definitely like shed a couple tears, and I was like, that is the cutest, sweetest thing ever. It's Happy Place by Emily Henry, and I gave it 5 stars. It has an average rating of 4. I was reading the reviews because I like to read the reviews of books I get 5 stars, obviously, and a lot of people didn't like it. I will say at the beginning, I was debating giving it 5 stars or 4 stars, just because the beginning I was kind of like, oh no, why did I pick this book? Like, this does not sound interesting at all, because there were so many people being introduced in the beginning, and it's a lot of like names being thrown at you, and I'm terrible with names, as you guys can tell from my recaps of all the books that I've read. But it's about this couple who called off their engagement, and they share the same friend group, and this friend group consists of 3 couples. And every year, I think around the same, like the Lobster Festival, they go to Maine, and they go visit, I remember her name because I literally just read it yesterday. They go visit Sabrina's father's like vacation home, and they stay there for a couple days. But Sabrina's father is selling the vacation home, so this is their last vacation, and Sabrina and her couple are getting married. And so that's when, how do I not remember the main couple's name? Harriet and Wen. Okay. And they're like, okay, well, we can't say anything because like they're getting married. We don't want to ruin this weekend for them, and it's like our last weekend. We're all going to be together. They basically have already been separating because the 3 main girlies, they met in college, and then the 2 boys got added on, and then there's another girlfriend that was added on. So that's a total of 6. Do I know my numbers? It's a total of 6, 3 couples. Anyways, and they just kind of go from there. I really like this. I had my suspicions. It's kind of obvious like what's going to be revealed in the end, but what really pushed me to keep reading this book is that I really wanted to know why they broke up, because she obviously still really likes him, because you can tell, because it's only in her point of view, and it jumps back to the past, which was something a lot of people in the reviews said they didn't like. So that's not something you like. This probably isn't for you, but I didn't mind it. I don't care. It worked. It worked in this context, and it worked for me, so I ate it up. When you jump to the past, they had a really good relationship, but they just kind of grew apart and they ended up not being together. I really related to Harriet just because I feel like her family situation and my family situation, not exactly like how they live and stuff, just like the relationships are kind of similar. So that kind of hit a little home for me. And then I don't know, just really what kept me pushing through the book because, like I said, the beginning was really rough. I remember reading the first chapter and I was like, I think I might need to read something else. But I pushed through and I just wanted to really know like why they broke up because it could have been, there were like little things being like dropped and you're like, It's this. No, it's this." But obviously by like by the time I was like 60% of the way through, I figured it out. And then there's like another revelation, which that was also kind of like, I remember reading like little foreshadowing of it, and I was like, this could possibly be something that's going to be revealed in the end, and it was, but it wasn't like 100% in it. So it was kind of cool for me because I'm just nosy. Like, I want to know why they broke up. Like, they were so happy in the past, and she was like all angsty for him, and like mourning, yearning for him, and he was very hot and cold, which some people might not like, but I liked it because it was like, I can't tell, does he like her? Does he hate her? Does he miss her? Like, it was really interesting. I liked it. And like I said, I gave that one 5 stars and I finished it yesterday. So, in comparison to Beach Read, I feel like this one was better. Definitely, I don't know, I probably will read another one of her books, but it's just gonna be whatever I find interesting because I'm not going in order, obviously. I think this was like her second most recent book. But overall, pretty good reading month. I'm pretty proud of myself.